Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. Blessings to you all. Disciple of Christ here, Brother Paul, D to the O to the C, Doc, as some of my brethren call me, although the true doctor is Yeshua. So, as promised, uh, yeah, here's the next video. I did a couple videos recently about the Hebrew Israelites and messages for them. And the second one I did as a rebuttal or a response to the comments I got on the first one got even a lot more views than the first one and a lot more negative comments. So I told you in that video I'd be making this video. So this one, here it is, the top 10 lies, false doctrines of the Hebrew Israelites. So let me make a couple disclaimers first so there's hopefully no misunderstandings. First of all, this video is not about who is Israel, who is bloodline, who is not, what color are they, because I personally believe, based on the evidence and based on scripture, Israel has been scattered to the four corners of the earth. They've mixed amongst all the nations. So there's black Israelites, there's white Israelites, there's Asian Israelites, all over the world. Okay, so that's the first thing. I'm not trying to deny anyone and saying, oh, you're not a bloodline Israelite, regardless of what color you are. What this is basically about is truth and debunking the the false doctrines and lies that are propagated by some of these camps and groups. Now, the second disclaimer, and I've mentioned this in previous videos as well, you can't paint all the Hebrew Israelites with one brush. Just like Christianity has many denominations, there are many different sects or camps of Hebrew Israelism, and there are different beliefs. There are those that believe in the Messiah, and then there's those that are Tanakh only. They deny the Apostle Paul, they deny the divinity of Christ, they deny the New Testament altogether. So not all of these are going to apply to all Hebrew Israelites. However, most, and I'm coming to you as a former Hebrew Israelite. For 12 years, I belonged to an assembly. Most of the doctrines I've discovered from researching came from one source. Most of them, if you've heard of Vocab Malone, which I'm sure some of you have, he talks a lot about the One West. And this is talking about the original school that started, I think, in the late 60s under IUIC. Is it Harlem? Anyway, in New York on One West, I guess that was the address. So they're referred to as One Westers. And most of these doctrines all stem from the same people in the same time period. There's no biblical evidence to support their claims. There's no historical or archaeological evidence to support any of them. So anyway, let's get to it. Number one, a false Hebrew Israelite doctrine or lie, the 12 tribes chart. Again, not all camps subscribe to this or believe this or promote it, but many of them do. And basically they're saying that, oh yeah, the Americas, the West Indies, these are all the different tribes, and they assign different nations to different tribes of Israel. No fact behind it, nothing historical, nothing scriptural, nothing archaeological to back any of it. It all came from Ariya, who was one of the leaders in the first One West schools there. And it came to him in a dream or vision. This is what he claims. And, like Gad are the Native Americans, Issachar the Mexicans, Judah are the African Americans that were brought over as slaves. I don't doubt that many of these people have Israelite heritage, but this chart assigning certain nations to certain tribes is totally bogus. There's nothing about it. And also, the Bible is clear. Israel was scattered to the four corners of the earth, not just the Americas. So that's another fallacy. They want to say, oh, all the slaves in America, they're the children of Israel. No, children of Israel scattered to the four corners of the earth. And there's a lot of evidence to support that. In the interest of keeping this a reasonable length, I'm not going to go into everything. I will drop some links to support some of the things if you choose to watch them. Number two, another number two lie or false doctrine of the Hebrew Israelites, lashan kadosh, or kadosh, however they pronounce it. And what this is fake Hebrew. Again, I believe it's from Ariah. I don't know if it's a dream or how he came up with it. And I believe both with the 12 tribe charts and lashan kadosh, there's evidence that he later recanted, admitted that it's all false and it's just used to draw people in and sucker them in. Because these people aren't about empowering black people or waking up true Israel. They're about making money and having control over people. Just like many Christian pastors just fleece the flock. So lashan kadosh, so you get words like, instead of Yahweh, the Father's name, Yahuwah. Instead of Yeshua for Jesus, it's Yahusha. You also have Yahawashai and Shalom. I don't even know if that's part of lashan kadosh or that's just some other fake Hebrew that's been made up. But there's nothing to back any of this. Nothing in history, nothing in archaeology, nothing written. This is all made up stuff from a few sources and been propagated. No scholar who speaks Hebrew understands any of this stuff, or, there's nothing to back it. And as far as the name of the Messiah, we know it's Yeshua. The Father's name, Yahweh, because of the no vowels being written, there is argument whether it's Yahweh or some would say Yahweh. Even Yahuwah, I would give some wiggle room to, or Jehovah. There's arguments there, but Yeshua, there's no doubt, because we have the Septuagint, which was the Greek translation of the Old Testament, the Tanakh, about 300 BC, and it has the name of Joshua, Yehoshua, which is the same as the name Christ had, and in the Aramaic, or the shortened form, it's Yeshua, because in the Greek it's Jesus, because Greek people, in their language, they didn't have equivalents for the sh sound, so they couldn't pronounce Yeshua. The closest they come is Jesus. And because it's Greek, it's a male name. The S is added to the end. Anyway, there's all kinds of studies you can find on this to back this up. So there's no earth pig or hail Zeus, all these crap doctrines that come around trying to deny the true name Yeshua. It's Yeshua. Every Hebrew scholar agrees with it. And that's all I'll say about that. Okay, number 3. False doctrines of the Hebrew Israelites. There's a claim that, well, we know that we're the true Jews because when you look at the prophecies about Yeshua, both in Daniel 7 and Revelation 1, it says he had woolly hair like wool. And who has woolly hair? And then they'll point to like curly afro hair. The problem is neither of those verses talking about the texture of the hair. Let's check it out. So we'll start with Daniel 7:9 first. And where do we go here? King James. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. It's talking about Yeshua, whose garment was white as snow. His hair of his head was like pure wool, and his throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels of burning fire. Where does it say he had curly hair or afro type hair? It was pure as wool. And second witness that this is talking about the color and not the texture of his hair. If you look at the Scriptures Bible, which is a restored name Bible using the Hebrew names, it actually says his garment was white as snow and his head was like clean wool. So pure wool, clean wool. In other words, it was describing the color of his hair being white like pure wool, not curly or so. I'm just debunking the facts. I'm just telling you the facts and debunking the lies. There's nothing here that talks about texture, but I've heard many leaders in Hebrew Israelites propagate this You know, and they even have this image of a black Jesus with a white afro and a white beard. Um, let's go to Revelation because it's even more telling. Revelation 1 and 14, I believe. 1 and 14. I'd take notes here. And his head and his hairs were white like wool. What? His head was white like wool? Now, I don't believe this is talking about his skin color here. I think it's talking about, it's a metaphor. He was shining because he's light. He's bright to look upon him. But even so, if you want to take it literally, it says his head and his hairs were white like wool. How does he have a white head if he's black? White like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. Now here we'll go on a little further because it talks about his feet unto fine brass, as if they burned in the furnace. Now I won't argue that. Obviously Jesus is not white. Christ was not white. He was darker skinned, brown skinned, and you know, showing that his feet were like burnt brass. Definitely would support that he has dark skin, but the point here was the hair. It's not saying he has woolly or curly hair. It was talking about the color of his hair being white, or like white or pure wool. Okay, let's move on. Number 4. This is a big one. Number 4, top 10 lies, false doctrines of the Hebrew Israelites. The curses of Deuteronomy 28. Well, we know we're the people because we fit the curses. And it sounds good on the surface. I believed it for many years. So, in a way, you know, I have mercy on those that are still deceived by this because I was deceived by it. But when you look deeper and you actually research, you know, number 1, Deuteronomy 28 is not a prophecy. And it's not, nowhere does it say this is how you will be identified as a people. It's a warning. It's saying, here, I've made my covenant with you. You've agreed to it. These are the terms. If you follow what I've said and obey me, blessings. If you disobey me and you break our covenant, you're going to be cursed. Now, do those curses fit? Well, some of them do, and that's why it's so believable. But when you research further, you find out that those curses also fit a lot of other people. If you study history, and then, you know, some of the curses. Now, if you can identify one group that all the curses apply to, you know, I'm not going to go into all of them because obviously this video would be too long, but I have a video linked below. It's Dr. Eric Mason, and he goes through many of the different verses in Deuteronomy 28 and shows you how they don't apply to, you know, the so-called African American or Black Americans today. You know, the other thing too is that, well, if you're Israel and you're now walking in the law, statutes, and commandments, you're not under curses. Otherwise, Yahweh's a liar. You're not under curses, you're under blessings. So if you're keeping the commandments, you should be under blessings, not curses. So, you know, I'm not sure how, and this is, in a way, to me, is an offense as well, because you're blaming Yahweh, you're blaming the Father for your misfortunes or whatever problems you're having in life. You're just blaming. So it's lack of accountability. Instead of taking responsibility and saying, well, why am I in this state? You know, and there's many reasons. I'm not going to go into that, but, you know, is it really curses? Is Yahweh really cursed your people? Or is there other factors involved that have caused what you perceive to be curses in your life? You know, then you got things like, you know, even Israelites will claim a lot of black people are Hamites. Okay, so how do you know who's a Hamite and who's an Israelite in the Americas? Were the Hamites not enslaved too? So how do the curses of Israel fall upon Ham? And then you've got a lot of successful people in the Americas, successful black people, whether they be athletes, musicians, rappers, celebrities, film stars, Oprah Winfrey. These people are filthy rich. What curses are they under? How come some black people are cursed and not all black people? So it just doesn't wash. I'm sorry. You know, slavery was a terrible thing. There were brutal things done to black people in the Americas, and I denounce those things. I don't agree with those things. No human being should be treated those ways. We're all created in the image of Yahweh, but we got to be truthful, and to just claim something because it feels good or makes you feel better or more important, that's not walking in the spirit or in the truth or worshiping in spirit or truth. I would highly recommend, if you don't know who he is, Thomas Sowell. Lots of his content online. He's a black American. He's an older gentleman now. He's been around for a while, but he's very learned, very studied, and topics like racism, history, black history, economics. He exposes a lot of things, not just with regards to black people. He talks on the world in general and many cultures, but he debunks a lot of the fallacies that people have about racism and slavery. Slavery was not started against the black people because of racism. Actually, there were black people with white European slaves long before this transatlantic slave trade. Slavery has been something, it's just a wicked thing where a nation of people or a group of people has power over another group, and they use them for free labor, and they oppress them. Got nothing to do with color, though. Although the more recent, instances we have of slavery with the African Americans, you would think it was about color or race, but it's not. So again, Thomas Sowell, don't believe me. He's the historian. He's the scholar. I'll move on to the next one. So the next one, another big one that's propagated. Top 10, number 5, top 10 lie, false doctrines of the Hebrew Israelites. Esau is the white man. Esau is the white man. Well, number 1, if you go to the Table of Nations in the Bible, after the flood, Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. We know the Hebrews came from Shem. So we get Shemites or Semitic. Japheth moved north to the European regions. The Europeans, aka the white man, came from Japheth. Esau was Jacob's twin brother. Now, if Jacob's black, what's the likelihood that Esau was white? Even if he was white, we know that Esau married Canaanite women who, if Israelites were black, the Canaanites were also black. So how do you get a bunch of white children? Anyway, I think you get the point here. Now, the word that was used to describe Esau in the Hebrew is Admoni or Admoni. It means ruddy. Now, this is the exact same word used to describe Adam, the first man, and King David. So if a man being called Admoni, ruddy, if that's supposed to mean white, then the first man created was white, which I don't believe is true, and King David was white. See, it doesn't wash, and you can't cherry pick and say, well, this one was white, this one wasn't. No, they're all described the same way. So they're either all white or they're all red or black. If they were black, I would say they'd be like someone like Red Fox. He would have a ruddy complexion, kind of a reddish brown. But there's also white people like rednecks who turn red, who flush very easily. They're also referred to as ruddy. Now, again, we're talking about the Middle East. We know the people there weren't white-skinned. They were dark-skinned. You need the melanin to protect you from the hot sun. But that doesn't mean they were black or negroid or... Anyway, again, I'm not denying that there are black people who are Israelites and that there were black people in ancient Israel. I believe there were. But this thing about Esau being the white man, it's horse crap. Now, could there be descendants of Esau who are white? Absolutely, because we know Israel mixed with all the nations, and there's white Jews today. So, yeah, I'm sure there could be white Edomites, if they still even exist as a group. I don't know of anyone that identifies as an Edomite. Yeah, so I think that covers that. And I'm also going to link, I'll leave that for later. Okay, number six. Number six, lie, false doctrine of the Hebrew Israelites. Jewish people, the modern day Jews of today, specifically the Ashkenazi Jews, are imposters. They're not descended from Israel. They're from the Khazars. They're Khazarians. And I believe this too, and I had to repent from it once I did further research and realized it's all a bunch of crap. This is all based on a book by Kessler, who was a Jew. And the reason he wrote this book, there was a lot of anti-Semitism in Europe against the Jewish people, as there is throughout the world to this day in certain places. Well, he wrote this. He believed that if he tried to make the Jews out to be Caucasians or Europeans, that it would help fight anti-Semitism. Well, it didn't work, obviously, but either way, it's not true. The Ashkenazi Jews are not descended from Ashkenaz, as is also falsely propagated. They got this name. Basically, what happened? Why? I did a whole video on this, and I'll have that linked, addressed on whether the Jewish people are imposters or not. But to make long story short, Jews were taken as slaves from Israel when Rome sacked them in 70 AD. They brought thousands of them back to Rome, where they were enslaved for a time, and then they were eventually freed. They mixed with the Italians that were there, and then eventually migrated north into Germany, then Poland, other places in Europe, even Russia. And through 2,000 years of mixing, their skin got lighter, their features changed because they mixed with Europeans. But the name Ashkenazi came because of where they were living in Germany. I think the name in German, if I'm not mistaken, sounded similar to Ashkenaz. So they just adopted this name of being Ashkenazi Jews. But it has nothing to do with Ashkenaz in the Bible. And the state of Israel, if you talk about that, there's a lot of people in Israel are secular. They don't even believe in the Most High or the Torah. But the majority of Jews in Israel are Sephardic and Mizrahi. Mizrahi are like the Arabic Jews that live in Iraq. The Sephardic Jews were those that migrated to Spain for a long time and then eventually came back to Israel. And then you've got the Ashkenazi that were intermixed with the Europeans, so they're lighter skinned, obviously, often with red hair, blue eyes, or blonde hair, blue eyes. And this was from intermixing. It's not because they're not. Their DNA proves that they are true Israelites, just like the DNA of the Lemba tribe in Africa and the Igbos shows that they have links to Israel as well. So yeah, that's what I'll say about that. And again, I'll link my previous video, which has more information in the description if you care to watch it. Number 7, fake doctrines or lies of the Hebrew Israelites. And I'll show some images here. So one is about former Egyptian President Nasser. And this is a meme that went around the internet. I was guilty of sharing this too. Basically saying something with regards to, oh yeah, the Jews in Israel will never have peace because they left here black and came back white. We will never accept them. Now, if you look, number 1, first of all, the accept that's written there is the wrong accept. That is accept as in an exception. Accept as in being accepting of something is spelled A-C-C-E-P-T. Accept, not accept, E-X-C-E-P-T. So obviously this was a scholar who made this this meme, doesn't even know how to spell or know the right word. They need a grammar lesson. But I'll link a video below because this is fake. There's nowhere recorded. This isn't recorded anywhere. There's no evidence that he ever said this. And I'll link a video of an interview, a TV interview he did, where he actually speaks about the Jews in Israel and in Egypt that were living in Egypt at the time, talking about how they've lived there alongside the Arabs and Muslims for thousands of years. So he's not calling them imposters or saying that they're the wrong color. No, he's acknowledging they are the Jews. What else was I going to say here about this? Yeah, so if you can see in the photos here too, the memes, even the dates don't match up. I think one's like 1958 and one's 1952. So which is it? When did he say it? So it's garbage. It's just garbage. It's lies that's propagated. If you're Israel, you're supposed to be children of light, children of truth, and you're propagating lies, as I once did. And this is why I'm coming out so strongly against this now. People are destroyed for lack of knowledge, you know, and they propagate lies. And then what it does, it makes you look like a joke, because then as soon as your lies are debunked, then people think that everything you say is false. Anyway, number 8, which is kind of connected to number 7. Number 8, false lies or false doctrines of the Hebrew Israelites. Fake quotes from Adolf Hitler. And this is one that was propagated as well. Again, you can't find anything Hitler wrote, any historical document, any recording where he said this. Somebody made this up. There's no source quoted, but he was talking about World War III and the Illuminati and the Freemasons, and then talking about how America has no idea that they have Yahweh's jewels, his chosen people, talking about the black Americans that were brought through slavery. So apparently Hitler knew who the true Jews were, and that's why he was murdering the Jewish people, which is false. There is other reasons why the Nazis turned against the Jewish people. Has nothing to do with biblical prophecy and knowing that the black people are the true Jews. I don't think Hitler was aware of this. This whole movement is a fairly new thing. So anyway, Hitler's time, it wasn't common knowledge. Okay, number 9. Another kind of supporting thing, false doctrine and lie of the Hebrew Israelites is that Egyptians were black. And they'll use like Moses, his hand being leprous as snow, and then changing back to its normal color, saying, see, he's black, and then his hand turned white. Well, if you know leprosy, like even me as a so-called white man, if I was leprous, it would be like albinism. You know, I have beige skin. Actually, when I get sun, I get pretty brown myself. But, you know, it would be turning like white, like almost like ghost, like Casper the Friendly Ghost type of white. That's what it's talking about. And then they'll say, oh, Jesus hid in Egypt, and he was black, so he hid amongst the Egyptian. Paul was, you know, mistaken for an Egyptian. It's not because they were black. Actually, Egyptians, if you study history, there were 4 main racial groups in Egypt. You had the Egyptians, who were more Arabic. You had the Asiatics, had Libyans, and then you had the Nubians. The Nubians were the black population of Egypt. The rest were anywhere from like probably a little darker than me, what they would call olive-skinned, to brown, you know, and there's a diagram here showing from the hieroglyphics where it shows the 4 different ethnic groups and their features, and you can see they go from very light skin to pitch black. So yes, there were black Egyptians, but just like Israel, they weren't all black. Sorry to burst your bubble. That's just the facts. Yeah, next one. So number 10 is number 10, false doctrines and lies of the Hebrew Israelites. The white image that we have of Jesus, and I agree Jesus was not white. came from Caesar Borgia. No evidence to support this. The only claim that we have of this, or where it originated, was from fictional French author Alexandre Dumas, who wrote books you may very well know, like The Three Musketeers, The Count of Monte Cristo. He's apparently the one that wrote this about Christ being from Caesar Borgia. And if you see an image of Caesar Borgia, he's just a white guy with longish hair and a beard that could fit a lot of people in that time period. Actually, from my research, Christ was often portrayed in artwork as having short hair and being clean shaven until the discovery of the Shroud of Turin, which is when you saw more imagery with the beard and the longer hair. And after a lot of research on it, I personally believe the Shroud of Turin is the miraculous image of Christ on his burial cloth. If you look at all the evidence and how this shroud was created, or how no one can identify how it was created, it's just the evidence is overwhelming. I believe that is the image of Christ. Not a white man, not a black man either. Now, does that mean other Israelites weren't black? No, doesn't mean that. But Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, was not a black man based on the evidence that we have. And if he was, I would still bow and worship at his feet. I'm not against, although many of the comments, you will call me a white devil, you might call me a racist, you might say I'm denying the true people. Nothing to do with that. It's just about truth. Just as I believed when I was propagating that black people were the true Jews and that Israelis were imposters, and I repented of that because I was wrong. So hopefully, don't believe me, but hopefully this, instead of attacking me and just digging down and believing your own false doctrines, go research it, and I'm sure you'll see that what I'm saying is true. Okay, so that's top 10. I'm going to throw in a bonus one, and this one's just sheer stupidity. Anyone who propagates this, it's ridiculous. I've heard Israelites claim that Jewish means you wish you were a Jew. You're not a true Jew. That's why you're called Jewish. Okay, if that's your contention, how about English, Swedish, Finnish, Irish, Danish, Spanish, even the Amish? Are these people all imposters? Or they wish they were of that culture, that nation? That's ridiculous. You really need to slap yourself in the face if you propagate that. It's a suffix that just means of, just like Canadian, American, Italian, Nigerian. It's a suffix added to a name to indicate that you're from that region or that culture. Another thing, I'll lump in with this, another really stupid thing that I've heard people talk about is that, Jews, they don't speak true Hebrew. They speak Yiddish. That's also BS. Yeah, Jews do speak Yiddish, more specifically the Ashkenazi, which is like a Germanic. It's a combination of German and Hebrew. That's not true Hebrew. It's Yiddish, and any Jew will tell you that. But most Jews also speak Hebrew. Now, it may not be exactly the same as ancient Hebrew. It's a modern version of Hebrew, but it is a distinct language. Scholars study it. It has an alphabet. It's written. It is Hebrew. They don't speak fake Hebrew. No, it's the Hebrew Israelites that speak lashan kadosh, which is fake Hebrew. So there you go. Top 10 reasons. Went a little longer than I hoped, so I'm not sure how many are going to watch through it. But anyway, my job is to be a watchman and to tell the truth and to preach the true gospel and debunk false gospels that are not of Christ. They're of Antichrist. It's a false gospel. It's not what Paul preached. It's not what Jesus preached. So, you know, if you want to believe you're Israel, that's great. You know, but this is about worshiping Yahweh and the Messiah and doing his will and being a light to all nations on earth. If you want to worship your skin color, I mean, go ahead, but that's not going to save you. Anyway, that's it. Shalom to you. Disciple of Christ here, Doc, Brother Paul. And we'll see what the Most High puts on my heart for the next video. But, you know, I hope you can receive this in love as being sent. Lies are lies. Satan is the father of lies, so lies must be exposed. So, shalom to you and blessings. And, yeah, that's a wrap.